19-13 is the final. The improbable season ends with the Michigan Wolverines as your ReliaQuest Bowl champions. They beat the dreaded Alabama Crimson Tide again. Again, we started the year, Sam, with the Rose Bowl win, and we ended with the ReliaQuest win back-to-back against the Alabama Crimson Tide, a team that many people thought should have been in the playoff. And Michigan came in here with a team that was filled with backups, but the culture, the tone was set. We saw it at Ohio State. They came down here, business trip, Sam, and got it done today and defeated the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, improbable. The 11th ranked team in the country. Everyone had Michigan getting blown out in this game, much like they had Michigan getting blown out against Ohio State, right? And in the first quarter of this contest, it was in danger of being a route the other way. I mean, you talk about having a team ready. Chiron Moore had this team ready, and Wink Martindale had this defense picking up right where it left off against Ohio State, Josh. And you can speak to this. You, Alejandro, Zach Shaw, my man Mark Weaver, photographer, videographer extraordinaire. We had a great crack team down there all week long, covering it A to Z. And Wink said, hey, next man up. It sounds like a soundbite, but they proved it today. He had his guys ready to step in and fill in, and it was a dominant performance by the Michigan defense.
Yeah, Wink, just on our bowl coverage said, hey, it sort of clicked for us in that second half against Oregon. And you sort of seen it culminate to the end of the season and then get it done. They go to Columbus, and then to do it today against a mobile quarterback, Jalen Milroe. Everyone thought he would give them fits. Man, Michigan brought the house. They got all that pressure. That the elements were there. I mean, Chiron Moore said after the game, he's like, were they concerned about the elements? He's like, we're built for the elements. We're from Michigan, right? Michigan plays in every type of weather, right? And they got it done. They got those 3 turnovers. The turnover down that first series, 16 points. They held on. They did what they did again against Ohio State. Sort of wore them down there in the fourth quarter. It's not the best offensive front Michigan's ever had, but they were able to grind them, even with Orji coming in and being basically no threat to pass the ball. They grinded them. And Jordan Marshall emerged today. He's the guy that everyone we thought he was. He waited his turn. The other 2 guys are sitting out the bowl game, the 2 seniors. Jordan Marshall, the freshman, is no longer a freshman anymore. He earned his stripes today. MVP, that's who I voted for. Deserved it, Sam.
Yeah, it gets down to approach. How are you going to treat this game? Were you going to treat it like an exhibition, or were you going to come out here and you're out here to win? Clearly, Chiron Moore, we're out here to win this game. We aren't out here just getting ready for spring ball. You can see it in their approach, as much as it may have been a grinding kind of thing, to see them grind it out, to see them play to their defense, to run the ball. I don't know how many times they ran it. I even said at one point, hey, man, they're going to have to throw it, have some early down passing if they're going to hold on. It was a pretty conservative approach, a very conservative approach, but it worked when your defense is as dominant as it wound up being, right? You coached the game, the flow of the game very effectively, especially when you see how well they had Jalen Milroe in a box in this game. And you really got to look and give credit to Wink Martindale for the evolution, not of team, not of concept, but of how he was able to connect with his guys on defense. The guys coaching college guys, pro guys, TJ Guy kind of spoke to it, but it's something that you and I, and something that talking to the guys on the team, we've kind of been hearing behind the scenes and kind of been speaking to all season long.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, they just bought in, right? I think the issues earlier in the season was communication issues. I think he's learning the personnel, learning how everybody plays certain roles. And as soon as he sort of got a grasp of how each guy plays, and they got to know how he coaches the game, man, you saw this team click. And at the end of the season, man, This is a legit top 10 defense. And imagine if they would have had all their guys today, Sam. I mean, it was just it was a clinic. I think it was impressive to see what they're able to do, and the future is bright. You mentioned TJ Guy, you mentioned Derek Moore. Those guys are going to be dudes next year, and it's what they do. It's a revolving door of defensive end studs at the University of Michigan. They just turn them out.
Well, I'll give you a story to kind of bring it together, an observation and a story. Kind of an observation comes from Vance. I think it was around the Texas game. Vance said, man, what I see is kind of some guys seeming like they're doing their own thing.
Yep.
Like they aren't really following the calls. And he said, I kind of went through this when I got to Texas. Like I would call something, and the guys, they were used to doing something a certain kind of way. And he said it was different for them. Now, those guys hadn't had success when I got to Texas. So it really makes sense. Yeah, but it's different with these Michigan guys. They won a national championship. So, of course, you're coming in, they're used to doing things a certain kind of way, and you're maybe telling them to do it different. It's not a disrespect thing, but it's like, hey, we just won a national championship, and you're telling them to do it different. Now, why might they buck it a little bit? And this is something that Will explain to me behind the scenes. And it wasn't something that applied to him per se. He was talking about, it was like a call. He was talking about a particular call. And it might have been it was either a blitz or a pressure or something. And he said, hey man, he gave this instruction. He's talking about Wink gave this instruction. And, he said with a pro guy, you can give an instruction. And let's say, it's a A, you're coming through the A gap, or you send a pressure, you're coming through the A gap, you're doing something with a particular hand, you're blitzing from a particular side, you're pressuring to this point, you want him to throw to this side. There are a bunch of different steps. A pro guy, you could just tell him, I want you to do this pressure, and I want you to hit him here. And he knows all the steps in between with a pro guy.
Mm-hmm.
With a college guy, you got to tell him the A, the B, the C, the D, and the E. You can't just say the A and expect the E. You can't do that. Very, very intuitive thing from a veteran guy like Will, who will get all of that, because he's a pro. But he said, man, with these young dudes, like, you got to give them every step.
Yeah.
You got to tell them where you want them to go. You got to tell them what arm you want them to do it with. You got to tell them what side you want them to do it from. You got to tell them every single step with a college guy. And a lot of times that's hard for a pro guy to get right away, right? Or, how much can you really get? How much can you really give a college guy? Sometimes you can't give a college guy as much, right? You might have to scale some of that back because it might be too much for a college guy to absorb. These are all things that it might take a little time for a pro guy to get. I think this was the adjustment process for Wink Martindale. So it wasn't that his stuff just didn't work. I think it was an adjustment process for him to kind of get to the point of, okay, I got to be not a Montessori experience, but I got to be a little bit more detailed with my instructions. I got to tell them every step of what I want them to do. And then there might be some things that I might have to scale back. I might not be able to give them every single thing. I have to scale back some of these things. And then once it all came together, they start, Josh, he had half a defense out there, and they still killed Alabama. Hey, relatively speaking, you see what Alabama did to LSU?
Right.
I mean, they didn't come close to doing that to Michigan today.
They did it with their backups. I mean, half their backups anyway. 13 points, Sam. At one point, Alabama had more turnovers than yards, total yards, 3-2. I think it was at the end of the first quarter, which is an incredible stat. Obviously, they were able to get some yards after that, but just an incredible effort. Just a great effort by the team. I think a little even more shot. I mean, back-to-back performances. I mean, touche. I mean, generally you don't get, the second movie isn't as good as the first, but this is like Godfather 1 and 2 here, man. I mean, this is money, man. And and then I wanted to speak to the one thing about Chiron Moore. Obviously he gave credit to the offense, and they had to churn it out. They had the time of possession, like 38 minutes roughly. But he said next year, moving forward, right? This is a momentum win, right? The 3-game win streak, the end of the season, the Ohio State, Alabama. He's like, hey, we got to get more big plays in the passing game. So that's something, he did know in that last press conference there after the game. And we're all intrigued, right? Bryce was there. We saw him on the sidelines. We had the practice footage throughout the week. Man, that's the next steps, right? We got Chip Lindsey in as the OC. What the maturation of this team, the maturation of this offense. It's high expectations, right? Going into next season, this spring, we just want to see how this team just develops, right? It's exciting times. It's just a great way to end the season. Improbable, as I stated as I started the show.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see now with these guys having a year with time on task, how they grow into next year, because you look at what they were able to do with the preparation from Jalen Miller. I'm sure he had designs on dominating this team, right? He was going to come and exercise some demons, right? Because why even play in this game if you're Jalen Miller, right?
Man,
he had something to prove.
He already put out. He hinted that he thought Michigan knew their plays last year. I saw that in one interview last year. So, and then you come out and you come and play in this game. He thought he was going to have a big performance.
Yeah, he did. And this looked a lot like Vanderbilt. I'm trying to think of the teams that had him in the Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. Did a great job.
Yeah, and the Oklahoma game says it all. This team was very beatable. I think people overlook those bad losses this Alabama team put forth. They struggled. Even look at last year. They struggled against USF. This Milroe, he just has these games where it's almost like he looked shook. Probably the worst opening series of his career. That first quarter, I've never seen Alabama just get punched in the mouth like that, right? That was just incredible.
Listen, there are some tendencies with Jalen Milroe. First of all, he's their leading rusher. If you have guys who are tremendous at reading their keys, which Michigan was very assignment sound, very disciplined in the run game. And so they didn't really let him get loose except for that 141-yard run. Right? That's the only time he really got loose. So they kept him in a box. They kept him contained. And they really didn't let him get outside. They did a great job in their rush lanes. This is something that they didn't do a great job of early in the season. So the rush lane integrity without their main guys, I was very impressed with that. And then in the throw game, this was a big key. He's looking to throw the football down the field, and that is it. He is not doing anything really short and intermediate. He is a big shot, big play guy. And so Michigan is going to bracket Ryan Williams and try to force him to throw to other guys, and he's going to be holding the football all day trying to find that other guy, just like he did last year. Look how often he held the football last year in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Look how often he held the football all year long. That's why he's taking all these doggone sacks.
Yep.
Could be a guy that can run as well as he runs and taking all the sacks that he takes. Why? Because he's trying to throw all these deep shots, and he can't find the open man. Michigan did a great job of their scout. They did a great job in coverage, and they knew he's not going to make him play. He's not going to make him pay short and intermediate. It worked to a T.
Sam, I just want to ask you this. They're probably going to try to kick me off the field here in a second. So I want to ask you this. What does this win mean for this Michigan program right now? I know you've been thinking about this. They won this game. What does this mean for Michigan, Sam?
So I think it's a continuation of the momentum. There was a window there where you would look in this chat, and it was these post-game chats, a lot of naysayers, a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of people saying, get rid of the whole staff. It was a lot of fire winks in here. It's crazy to see it now. A lot of fire Chirons in here.
Hey, by the way, he mentioned he kept his receipts. He mentioned that after the game. I heard the scuttlebutt. He mentioned he said it. No, he didn't say it on record, but he said I kept my receipts. So
oh yeah, hey man, it's
hey,
funny.
they say they don't listen. He was listening.
Oh yeah, man, it's funny. And people don't like it when you bring up the receipts. They don't like it when you bring it up. But yeah, keep the receipts all the time.
We all keep receipts. Let's be real.
But it's things change. They started playing better. You get the commitment from Bryce Underwood. You beat Ohio State. The momentum that this program has is on a different level now. The commitment of Bryce Underwood, I would offer that it swung not just some recruiting momentum, it swung momentum within the program, convincing some of these guys that you saw out there playing today. It swung some momentum in convincing them not to look around. I think it was that significant. So it's partially a springboard, more of a springboard into the spring competition. They are not done with the portal. They're looking to add some more guys. Mainly, most of the conversation right now, most of the push right now seems to be in the trenches. We'll see what happens as far as some of these guys who are still competing as far as bowl and playoffs. There's still an opportunity for them to go in the portal. But other than that, we're looking into the spring window for maybe other guys that they're going to add as far as the portal is concerned. But like I said, positive momentum heading into the spring. The only thing that I really lament from this game is that you didn't get a chance to see Jaden Davis. I do think that was a missed opportunity. Would have liked to have seen them get him some meaningful reps. You wonder if that would have does that compromise the winning game plan? I don't think so, because the quarterback was basically handing off the football. So I don't think that compromises the opportunity to win the game. So I would have liked to have seen him get some reps in this game, maybe throw a pass or two just to get him a look, to get his feet wet, to give him, some positive feelings heading into the spring. You hope. I don't know what his mindset is or feeling is coming out of this game, heading into the spring. But ideally, you want that to be part of the competitive vibe between Mikey Keene, of course, Bryce Underwood, and you would think, of course, Jaden Davis, and then of course Davis Warren. But you got to wonder what Jaden is thinking at this point, coming out of this game, not having played.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really, I did catch him after the game. He didn't seem like he was celebrating as much as his teammates were. I don't want to say what I know what he was thinking, but that's just what I saw. I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, you would like to see him get more reps. I mean, it's also, we can go back, hindsight's 2020, maybe get some more reps earlier in the season against some of the, lesser opponents, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, I don't want to harp on that point, but I got to mention it because it was one of the talking points that I mentioned heading into the game. It would have been an objective for me, if it were me, to get reps to try to get a start on the competition heading into the spring, and to certainly play into the mindset. You want him feeling good about things,
right?
Because you want him to be a part of the spring competition. That's not to say that he won't be. It's not to say that he won't be, but you know how things get. Guys start to not feel good, and this day and age, when guys don't feel good, they start to look around. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but
I mean, it's definitely. It's definitely going to be one of the storylines as we wait for spring ball, Sam. We got a few months off. We could switch our focus now to recruiting, men's basketball. I mean, there's a lot to be positive about. It's another, this is 2 consecutive seasons where we can at least say we're going into this we're leaving the season with a win, right? Back-to-back bowl victories. It hasn't happened in a while. Of course, coming off 3 consecutive Big Ten championships and a natty, and then, beating Ohio State and Alabama for back-to-back years, it doesn't hurt either. The momentum is here.
Let's close things out, going back and forth, shouting some individual guys out. You and I. Let's rapid fire, shout some individual guys out. So I want to start out by shouting out Wink Martindale. You know, I think Wink did a tremendous job over the course of the season, evolving, not evolving his scheme, but evolving his approach to coaching these guys. Mm-hmm. It was a virtuoso performance in that way, and it made a difference for the entire team. And by the end of the season, his defense was playing as well as, and this is not hyperbole, his defense was playing as well as any defense in the country. His defense was playing at playoff level. His defense is playing as well as any defense playing in the playoff right now.
You know what, Sam? I think I would probably take that as a shout out as well. I agree with you. A guy I'm going to give a shout out, and maybe it's just an obvious one. I'm going to give a shout out to Chiron Moore. I think Chiron Moore, you look at how the season started, right? Juggled the quarterbacks a little bit. He's a first-year head coach. Maybe he made some decisions he shouldn't have, but then he stuck with his guy. He rode with Warren, and then they went on the road and beat Ohio State. Hey, they also beat Michigan State. They also, they won their rivalry games, right? And then they come down here and win this bowl game, beat Alabama. This team stayed the course. They knew what they were, right? We knew they weren't a great offense. They had a great defense, but they had to do what they had to do to win the games. They found a way to win. He never panicked. He always stayed even-keeled, cool as a cucumber. And he was the whole season. Ended that way. They got the win, stayed the course. And I think, man, there's just the positivity for this program is there. Bryce Underwood, getting Bryce Underwood and the recruit to be able to pull Bryce, right, recruit him while they're not having a great season, sell the future. They did it. And then not only did you get Bryce, then you go and beat Ohio State and you beat Alabama. I mean, what Bryce on the sideline today? Mm-hmm. Shout out to him. I think it's got to be I know that people had critics about him there's always going to be critics, right? Critics, some people probably didn't love the hire. Some people probably didn't. And probably were wondering that during the season, but the end of the season, the way they did, next year seems awfully, awfully bright. And I think you're looking at maybe potentially another playoff run. You would hope so. You would think so. I think they're going to get the right people in place, and it all starts this spring, and this is the momentum they needed.
Shout out to Amir Hall. Amir Hall, by the end of the season, that veteran savvy, just making big plays in the absence of Will Johnson out there on the corner. You needed a veteran playmaker out there on the corner, and he was that guy. He was that guy against Ohio State, made big plays out there again today, coming off the corner, getting the fumble. I mean, just to be that steadying presence out there on the corner, taking nothing away from what Zeke became on the corner, moving over from nickel and being that steadying force on the other side, but having that guy who has played a lot of college football, mm-hmm. that veteran savvy out there, that mainstay guy, that calming presence, and to be that again today, coming up, making big hits too. Amir Hall showed up, showed out, and he might be this year's Josh Wallace and finding himself on a pro roster next year. Shout out to Amir Hall.
I'm gonna shout out. I'm gonna have to say this guy. I know he didn't play today. Khalil Mullins. He was the heart and soul of this Michigan rushing attack. Never gave up, and everyone's always going to remember the two big runs this year: the run against USC and the run against Ohio State. Put the team on his back, carried them down to the victory, and get the big. He had the big runs when they needed it, and he just he's that unsung hero, right? Everyone was expecting big things from Diamond Edwards. Khalil Mullins, he's just a grinder, came to work every day, and now he's going to be on an NFL roster here next year, Sam. Great season from the senior, and we wish him best of luck into his new endeavors.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can separate Ernest Hausman, Jay Sean Barham, and Brian Jean-Marie, because that group was at one point the most maligned group I feel like at one point on the entire team, early in the season, when the offense was doing kind of okay, I mean, the linebackers seemed like they were the most criticized group on the team.
Yeah.
Brian Jean-Marie's coaching, Ernest Hausman was making mistakes left and right. Jayshon Barham he could run, but wasn't making a lot of plays. After the Texas game, they were catching all kind of flack. And after the Texas game, Ernest Hausman went to another level. Hausman played at an all Big Ten level from that point on. And then I want to say about after the Illinois game, Jayshon Barham's game went up to that level too. Just went through the roof. So you got to give Brian Jean-Marie a ton of credit for what, and Jimmy Rolder, you got to throw his level of play. So to see the way that the linebackers rose to the fore, those guys individually did a great job. And if the entire linebacking core is playing at a higher level, you got to look to their coach too. So that entire group, got to give them a shout out. Coach BJ and his crew, huge shout out to them.
Hey, I'm gonna give a quick shout out to these guys, but I have my last guy I want to say. Hey, the 4 studs, right? The 4 juniors. You know, we had Mason Graham, right? Loveland, our man Will Johnson, and Kenneth Grant. Hey, wish them best of luck in the next level. I hope they all go in the first round. They did just winners, man. Winners. They're just winners. But the other guy I want to give a shout out. My final guy I want to give a shout out, Sam. It's Kicker U now, right? Dominic Zapata. Hey, Kicker U. Hey, that guy came in here today. Sam, one of the cooler environments I've ever seen. The rain is just pissing down, man. And this guy comes out there cold. He's like, bang, every time, man. Reminds me of the guy from The Replacements, right? He flicks a cigarette, boom, just kicks it. Money every time, right?
Right. You got to get he's the offensive MVP. Been saying that for weeks. Yeah, you talked about Mason Graham and all of those guys. Listen, if Mason Graham, KG, Josiah Stewart, those
another
guys
one
go out, and then you replace him now. Rayshawn Benny is a ball player, right?
Yeah.
And we got to give, and we know Big Derek Moore is going to be a man. Great game today. Same thing with TJ Guy. Take nothing away from those guys. But if you can come back with those guys and they ball out too, Lou Esposito, got to give you a shout out too. Because he's had dudes in Western Michigan that are pros now. And it seems like he's going to keep that train rolling.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, it feels like this defense is going to be able to replenish with the pieces they're getting from the portal.
Yeah.
The guys that they're developing from within. If they can get some good news from Rod Moore, the defense can be a foundation, and then it's just about what can they do, what can they find, what can they fill in on offense. They can get the pieces together on offense. They can get back. Feels like they're going to have the defense, especially with Wink with a year on task and this defensive staff together. They can get back. They'll have the defense to be back. The question will be, can they get the offense together to complement it? Time will tell, Josh Newkirk. Time will tell.
Final shout out, Sam Webb. Another great season under our belts. Hey, man, we did it. Hey, but the grind never stops. We got more recruiting coverage. We're going to be looking at the portal. Remember, we always got a deal going up on 247, right? We always got a deal. Look for it. Sam's going to be tweeting something here soon. I already know it. So.
Absolutely. We got a lot of portal stuff. Hey, man, got a lot of family time in. Got a lot of time with my mom, taking care of my mom over the holidays. So getting her all moved out of the facility and all that. So we got a lot of stuff handled over the holidays. So that was some much needed time away to handle all of that. So appreciate that. And so now we're about to jump back into the grind and ready to go, man. Ready to go. So
all right. Well, hey, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And this is a great way to end this year, 2024. Victory over Bama. For Sam Webb, I'm Josh Newkirk. I think we're calling it, Sam. That's it.
That is it, folks. That is it. So get ready for more portal coverage. And then we head over to spring ball. But basketball kicks into high gear. We're getting ready for that as well. So stick with us over on the Michigan Insider. We'll see you over there. We got steady dropping dimes coming this week. Recruiting Insider coming this week. Basketball Insider coming this week. That's how we get it going. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over on TMI. Thanks, folks. We'll see you there.